On this special edition of Your Tiger Ticket, the Tigers culminate the season-long celebration of the 1968 champions with ceremony and honor. We visit the Detroit Historical Museum for a retrospective of that 68 season. We catch up with Hall of Famer Tom Gage, whose new book, 3, chronicles the remarkable career of Alan Trammell. And longtime photojournalist Mary Schroeder tells us how she captured some of the most iconic images in Tigers history. All that and more on this special edition of Your Tiger Ticket. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Your Tiger Ticket. I'm Jim Berk. The 1967 Tigers lost the pennant on the final day of the season. That defeat sparked motivation for the 68 squad, seeking redemption not only for themselves, but for a city that was torn in two by riots the previous summer. The Tigers got off to a 9-1 start in 1968 and moved into first place on May 10th, where they would remain for the rest of the season. 1968 was the final season before the leagues each split into two divisions, and the Tigers finished with a record of 103-59. But the team earned a reputation as the Cardiac Cats for their dramatic comebacks. They won 40 games from the 7th inning on and won 30 times in their last at-bat. The team was led by homegrown talent in the likes of Willie Horton, who grew up just a few miles from the corner of Michigan and Trumbull. Bill Freehan hailed from Royal Oak. Jim Northrup called Breckenridge, Michigan home, and Mickey Stanley grew up a Tigers fan in Grand Rapids. 1968 was also the year of the pitcher, personified by the Tigers' Denny McClain, who captured 31 victories that year, the last pitcher to ever breach the 30-win mark in a season. But it was Mickey Lolich's outstanding performance in the '68 World Series that will forever be remembered. Lolich won 3 games against the Cardinals, including the Game 7 clincher in St. Louis, after he outdueled Redbird ace Bob Gibson to help the Tigers win their first crown since 1945. If you had to characterize the 68 Tigers in a couple of words, what would those words be?
Golly, courage, never giving up, and I guess all professional athletes, you can say the same, but I just think that we fought to the end, and it was just the way that team's makeup was and the way we were all put together, a bunch of blue-collar workers, so to speak. I don't think there were many that went to college, and some of us didn't finish high school, so it was just the whole aggressiveness, a blue-collar type of attitude, and until the last out, you got to get 27 outs in our game, so until that, we realized we always had a chance.
This team, I think, was very special because it came at a very unique time in Detroit's history. You know, the people here, we were kind of beat up in '67, and '68 came at a nice time, and that's why I think it's kind of a special ball club.
We all loved each other and played together, and all we pulled for each other.
I remember this team as a team as they played hard away from the field as much as they did on the field. They were outstanding, and there were so many guys on that roster that came through that I think that even the manager, Mayo Smith, and his staff were surprised. In spring training, I got with Lolich and McClain, Freehan, and Northrup, and all of them said, we're going to the World Series. And this is before they broke camp. This is before they started their preseason games. They were the first week of spring training. So if they had that much of an attitude going, I was ready for it too.
I'll tell you the truth. After the fourth game, I was looking at the schedules on flying out of here. You know, because it wasn't looking good. We stunk up the place, on the fourth game, And then what happened when Mayo, and this is as true as it could be, after Mayo let Mickey Lolich hit, when we were down and he got a base hit, next thing you know, McAuliffe walks, Stanley hits, Kaline hits, and after that inning, we were in front, and then it was all over, you know. And it really was, you know. It's amazing how it turned, you know. And I know the Cardinals were looking; they were getting some starting times at the golf courses, and they were ahead, and it didn't work out too good.
I don't think at the time I realized what we meant to the city. We were out there playing ball games, and it wasn't probably until the end of that year, reflecting on it, some traveling that winter, and listening to people and telling us what we meant to the city. So, I mean, I think that's a privilege to be put into a category that we helped the city recover from something. We're just ball players, and we didn't go out trying to do anything like that. We went out to try and win ball games, try and make up for that silly one game in 1967, and that was our motive, that was our determination. But the fact that we are told that we helped the city do anything great is just a wonderful feeling.
It was great because we're all wearing these hats, and these hats have a name, initials and numbers on them, and they're all for the guys that have passed away. Well, you know, it's been 50 years. I mean, I'm turning 78 next week, and, you know, I don't know how many years I got left to go. Nobody knows when you start getting around. I'm sorry, I talk on my hands. You know, you turn 80 and you start, is that the end of the tunnel down there? You know, and I mean, I don't know if we'll have another celebration in 5 years, or will it be 10 years? If it's 10 years, like, you know, so I really thought with a tear in my eye about this thing, because saw guys, might not see him again.
It was an unusual rendition of our national anthem in Game 5 of the World Series, seen by many at the time as an irreverent, unrespectful way to sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Jose Feliciano received criticism for the way he did it. In today's world, it would seem powerful and unique with flair. Jose did it the way he wanted to, and 50 years later, on the anniversary of that remarkable season, Feliciano was back in Detroit again, delivering the national anthem in his own special way.
I'm really happy. I just hope I don't get in trouble again.
Do you think you will get in trouble again?
I hope not. No. I'm happy to be back to Detroit. You know, my wife is from Detroit now, and I met her because of the Star-Spangled Banner. I made friends with Ernie Harwell. I wish he were here to celebrate this 50th, but he is here.
Yes.
His spirit is here. I know it, I feel it, and I believe in those things.
It was a monumental moment for Feliciano 50 years ago in other ways, because it was here in Detroit he met his future wife. Susan started his fan club, and through Ernie Harwell, who played matchmaker, was able to meet her future husband.
I wrote a letter to Ernie Harwell, and 3 days later he called us.
Wow.
He gave us Jose's contact info. Jose gave me permission to start his fan club. And 2 years later, we met when he was here at the Fisher Theater, and we've been together ever since. It brings back incredible memories, some of them bittersweet. Jose referred to the whole experience as being very bittersweet for so long. He got no radio play. He was criticized, chastised. But having recorded Light My Fire at the same time, this 1968, he was able then to go to other countries around the world. Spent a lot of time in Europe and South Africa and Asia and South America, of course, Australia, and cultivated that. Because of the Star-Spangled Banner, it actually made him move out a little bit and explore the space, musically speaking. So being invited to come back here 50 years later, it created a full circle, an absolute full full and complete circle.
Jose's national anthem had some repercussions on Mickey Lolich's warm-up routine, but it wasn't Feliciano's fault.
I'm not going to say the length of the anthem, but it was the timing of the anthem. I had gone down to the bullpen and I had started to throw and I was getting loose, you know, things were going along fine. And then all of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem. And I'm like, what? You know, well, sure enough. And then Jose started to sing. I've thought about it over the years. I don't want to blame it on Feliciano. Sometimes I want to blame it on my pitching coach, who was Johnny Sane, who I loved. I mean, you know, we had played the fourth game of the World Series and the third game of the World Series here. So there was 2 games that he knew when they were going to play the national anthem. Why didn't he get me down there sooner for I could get my 12, 13 minutes to warm up with? But I love Johnny so much, I'm not going to blame it on him.
How was the 68 team in dealing with the media?
Oh, you had individuals. You had certain days, and certain guys had their favorites, and other guys didn't have their favorites. McClain could be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But that was it. Cash was always a funny guy and always was quotable. Some things you couldn't use, of course. Northrop had a terrible temper, but otherwise, it was a pretty good bunch of guys. And I was closer to their age than I was to Ernie's or the coaching staff. So I hung around with a lot of the players on the road, stories that I can't talk about because I was doing the same thing as they were.
What does this weekend mean to you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, I'm only kidding. Got to see Ray Lane, and I mean, who needs life to be better than seeing Ray Lane? You know, it's been a great weekend. The guys who are still with us, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see that most of us are still walking around. At least we're able to walk around. But I thought the most impressive thing was the amount of people that have come out in 2 nights to see this welcome, and we got one more day. Has been incredible. I mean, I don't know what the totals are, but I can tell you this: that these are the most dedicated, loyal, nicest fans I'm telling you, in the country. I played for 4 or 5 different teams. I think I've been everywhere at least once in this country. And I'm born and raised in Chicago. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, born and raised there. And I want to tell you, we have the best fans. All of my kids were born here. Everybody, you know, this became our home. And this is just the greatest place in the world to live. Enjoy yourself, and they enjoy. If you do a good job, they enjoy it.
It was a remarkable time in our city, discord and anger turning into harmony and ecstasy. When we come back, we'll visit the Detroit Historical Museum for an exhibit with some real Tiger meaning. Stay with us. Now it's time for your Tiger Tickets Tiger Trivia, brought to you by Xfinity. Late in the 68 season, seeking to resolve a dilemma of too many outfielders and not enough pop in the lineup, manager Mayo Smith moved which outfielder to play shortstop for the last 9 regular season games and all 7 games of the World Series? We'll have the answer for you later in the show.
Ernie Harwell gave me advice when I first got the job. He says, don't bring or don't drink a beverage before you come into the booth, because he says there's no way to be able to take care of it later on.
I pay attention for a living. I watch plays and make important calls. While I'm busy watching the game, I need your help keeping an eye on the stands. If you see something suspicious, make the right call. Tell a law enforcement official.
Welcome back. Artifacts are the historical link to our past. Here's a 1968 road jersey passed out on the 50-year anniversary party. And as we celebrate the Tigers of yesteryear, the Detroit Historical Museum has a great exhibit celebrating that magical 68 year, including a scoreboard from Tiger Stadium.
Go get 'em, Tiger. We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em, Tigers. World Series bound.
The Detroit Historical Museum's exhibition, called The Year of the Tiger 1968. It commemorates the 50th anniversary of the championship season, is a collection of memorabilia and artifacts that tells the story of a Tigers team that brought a city together with their spirited team effort that year.
This is a very exciting exhibit. Obviously, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 68 Tigers winning the World Series. And I tend to be a little bit of a baseball nerd, so I'm very excited about that. I did work directly with Mickey Lolich. Actually got to spend some time with him, and he loaned us the bat. The one home run that he had in his entire career, he loaned us that bat. It was during the World Series, and that's on display. We have a jersey that he wore, and then we have a replica World Series trophy that he had made in 1968 as well.
The exhibit weaves together stories about the players, the manager, the stadium, and the events that paved a path toward a World Series victory and ultimately changed the mood and the spirit of the city.
We worked very hard on our 1967 exhibit that opened last year, and we wanted to sort of bridge the two exhibits, show how 1968 was one of the most difficult years in our history. There was this sort of shining light here in Detroit, and people, maybe for a day, could go to a ball game and forget about their woes and enjoy the team. And the team was a comeback team, and it's sort of like it became synonymous with that year, with Detroit. We were the comeback city. It took about a year to put together. We started talking about it, and obviously we wanted to commemorate this anniversary. I worked with a lot of people. Bill Dow, he served as a guest writer for this exhibition, and he's very knowledgeable. He's a sports historian, so he was able to do some of the research on that end. He had an immense collection of Tiger Stadium memorabilia, melodies and memories to Dan and Denise. They gave us a lot of items. Some of the bricks that are going to display are actually from inside Tiger Stadium, and a lot of the 68 players, most of the 68 players signed them, and those are on display. We have a huge collection of things that, from when Tiger Stadium closed, actual pieces from the stadium as well. We have a couple really great artifacts from Tiger Stadium that have not seen the light of day since Tiger Stadium came down. And the bleacher seats, the sign that was over the bleacher seats entrance outside the stadium, that's on display, and that actually is very meaningful for me because I went to tons of games and I sat in the bleachers every single time because it's the best seats, right? And then the owner suite, the paneling from the owner suite, which very few people probably have seen, is on display as well. Not all of the paneling, but a small section of it. And we actually have a picture of Willie Horton signing his contract, and you see the paneling in behind, when John Fetzer owned the team. Those are two things that I think, one will sort of pull at your heartstrings. It's memory, it's nostalgia. And then the other is sort of a wow, I didn't know that even existed. We have lockers from the Detroit Tigers locker room, just a section of two. And it's interesting to see how lockers going, way back, they're terrible. They're wire mesh, and compared to lockers of today, it's like living in the lap of luxury almost, which is wonderful. You just see how times change.
The Year of the Tiger 1968 is open to the public and daily admission is free. The Detroit Historical Museum, located at 5401 Woodward Avenue, that's on the northwest corner of Kirby in Midtown Detroit, is open to the public Tuesday through Friday from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and also Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, call the museum or on the web at DetroitHistorical.org. The exhibit, the 50-year anniversary of the 1968 championship, runs through October 7th. Almost a generation later, the Tigers would reach the mountaintop again. And we've done a lot this season on that 84 title team, including the Hall of Fame inductions of Alan Trammell and Jack Morris. Now there's a new book coming out on Alan Trammell. It's simply entitled 3, and it was written by Hall of Famer Tom Gage.
Tigers hired me basically to write the copy for it because they wanted to come out with a Trammell book like they did for K-Line in 2010. But nobody knew if there was time to do it. I mean, this was early July. And there was time to do it because everybody really was dedicated. The designer, myself, all the people who were getting the photos. Everybody wanted to do it on behalf of Alan Trammell because he's been so nice to everybody over the years, and you just wanted to give back to him what he has given to the people of Detroit and to the fans of the Tigers. His two sisters, Lynn and Nancy, really helped with the family photos. I talked to them at Cooperstown, and even though they could have said yeah, and you know, and just kind of given it lip service, they were dedicated to making this work. So when you see the photos of a 1-year-old Alan Trammell and Tram talking to Santa, and Tram all dressed up for Easter with his sisters, that's where those photos are from.
Coming up, we visit with longtime photographer Mary Schroeder, who shares her best memories following Detroit's baseball team. And we'll have the answer to this month's trivia question when we return on Your Tiger Ticket. But before the break, here's a look at some key dates in the 2019 Tigers schedule. Now the answer to Your Tiger Tickets Tiger Trivia, brought to you by Xfinity. Late in the 1968 season, seeking to resolve a dilemma of too many outfielders and not enough pop in the lineup, manager Mayo Smith moved which outfielder to play shortstop for the last 9 regular season games and all 7 games of the World Series? The answer? Mickey Stanley. To solve the quandary, Smith informed General Manager Jim Campbell of a 3-headed proposal. When Al Kaline returned to the lineup after missing 2 months with an injury, he moved Jim Northrup from right field to center field. That was his original position. The athletic Stanley bumped light-hitting Ray Oyler, who had hit only .135 with 12 RBIs during the regular season. It was a move that many say won the championship for the Tigers. We've seen so many celebrations this summer, from Stanley's 68 champions to the 84 title team, led by newest Hall of Famers Alan Trammell and Jack Morris. And next year, the Tigers will toast that 84 team again, as it will be the 35th anniversary of that incredible season. Now, one person very much connected to that year was Detroit Free Press photographer Mary Schroeder. Mary Schroeder's beat was the Tigers. Encamped in the third base side photography well, Schroeder documented Detroit's fantastic run to the title, from the 35-5 start to the playoff sweep of the Royals to the World Series triumph over the Padres. It was her iconic still pictures in the daily paper that are forever etched into the minds of Tiger fans, especially the jubilant, demonstrative Kirk Gibson raising his arms after homering in the Game 5 clincher. What do you see in that picture?
The night I shot the picture of Kirk Gibson at the bases, I knew I had a nice picture, and I sent it back to the office via courier. They told me that it was on the front page of the paper. They didn't say how it was used or anything, just that I made front page. Come the next day to see how it was used, And then as the picture came to define the Detroit Tigers of 1984, that defined it. And from there, it has defined the state of Michigan and sports history. It is one of the most iconic pictures you can ever find. Alan Trammell picture in the dugout as he's in the tunnel after the '84 World Series. Outside of the Gibson picture, that's my next favorite because it just epitomizes in itself of you guys did it. And it's just the pictures of the memories. You have them in your mind, but you can physically see them with the pictures that I produced.
Schroeder has collaborated with writer Bill McGraw and producer Brian Kaufman. They have put together a fascinating video documentation of that title run 34 years ago.
I have a creative imagination, and they had tigers up the middle, so okay, so let's get a baby tiger. And we're in Lakeland, Florida. I asked Mr. Campbell, the general manager, if I could bring one, and from one of the parks, they brought one over, and the tiger posed beautifully right with that. And then I just remember on the way out, the Milt Wilcox, one of the starting pitchers, put his pitching hand into its mouth. I had only seen one professional game before I came to the Free Press when I was 21. And I had covered baseball, and I didn't know what a no-hitter was. And so there we are in Comiskey Park, and I'm not paying attention to the scoreboard. And all of a sudden, somebody says no-hitter. It's like, ooh, my ears perk up. There we are, I know what to do. I was on the third base side for the White Sox, and then I have to switch sides. And I get the picture of the no-hitter, of the celebration, because I know what's going to happen.
Just imagine you were in Mary's shoes right next to the field, capturing all those remarkable images through photography. Thank you, Mary, for all the memories that you've given us. Some final thoughts coming up after this.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He knows he's a pretty big deal. How could you not love him?
It's been a great walk down memory lane on this show, hasn't it? We've seen the 1968 Tigers get honored on their 50-year anniversary. We've seen artifacts from that era, great photographs, and a new book coming out on Alan Trammell. On our next show, our wrap-up show, we'll revisit all the terrific moments of 2018. Hope you can join us then. Thank you for joining us today on Your Tiger Ticket. I'm Jim Berk. So long for now.